1. You have done everything right. You shocked the pool on Saturday, you added algicide on Sunday. By Wednesday, the water is green again. You go back to the pool store, spend another $80, follow the instructions on 3 different bottles, and by the following Wednesday, you are standing at the edge of the same green pool holding the same confusion and a lighter wallet. This has happened to you more than once, probably more than twice, and every time it happens, the pool store has a new product, a new explanation, and a new bottle that is going to fix it this time. Here is the truth. Nobody behind that counter has ever said out loud. The reason algae and cloudy water keep coming back is not that you're using the wrong product. It is that you are treating the result of a condition while the condition itself keeps running. Algaecide kills algae cells that are present. It does nothing about why those cells were able to grow in the first place. Clarifier clumps particles so your filter can catch them. It does nothing about why those particles were in the water. You treat the symptom clears temporarily. The condition produces the symptom again, you treat it again. That loop is not bad luck. It is the predictable outcome of solving the wrong problem. 90% of pool owners fighting recurring algae and cloudy water have never been shown the actual conditions that produce both problems and how to remove those conditions permanently. By the end of this video, you will know exactly what those conditions are, the simplest possible method to eliminate them, and the precise routine that keeps them from ever re-establishing. Not a new bottle, not a stronger chemical. A system that costs less than a single pool store visit to set up and runs on 2 minutes a day for the rest of your summer. Most pool owners treat algae and cloudy water as 2 separate problems requiring 2 separate products. The pool store is structured to reinforce this. Algaecide for algae, clarifier for cloudy water, shock for both. 3 bottles, 3 receipts, 1 underlying cause that neither bottle addresses. Here is the mechanism. Both algae growth and cloudy water from organic load share the same root condition, a gap in your sanitizer. 1A period of time, sometimes as short as 4 hours on a hot afternoon, where free chlorine drops low enough or pH climbs high enough that chlorine effectiveness collapses and the water loses its ability to oxidize and eliminate what is in it. Algae cells that have been present in the water at low, undetectable levels get the window they need to multiply. Organic particles from swimmer waste and sunscreen that chlorine would have oxidized at correct pH sit suspended in the water instead, making it cloudy. Same gap. 2 visible symptoms. The gap is not a mystery. It opens for one of 3 reasons every single time. Chemistry is off, specifically pH too high or chlorine too low. Filtration is failing, meaning the pump is not running long enough or the filter is too dirty to do its job, or bather load has consumed more chlorine in a short period than the pool had in reserve to handle it. 3 causes, the same 2 symptoms, and a pool store that sells you a different product for each symptom without ever asking which of the 3 causes opened the gap this time. Fix the cause and both symptoms disappear permanently. Chase the symptoms with bottles and both of them come back on schedule. This is the cause behind the majority of recurring algae and cloudy water problems in residential pools, and it is the one that requires the least effort and the least money to fix permanently. Free chlorine below 2 parts per million and pH above 7.8 is the combination that opens the chemistry gap. At pH 8.0, chlorine loses roughly 75% of its killing power. A pool testing 2 parts per million of free chlorine at pH 8 is functionally running at about half a part per million of effective sanitizer. That is not enough to handle a warm afternoon with 6 people in the water. That is not enough to stop algae cells from multiplying overnight. That is the gap, and it opens on its own in an unmanaged pool because pH climbs naturally through aeration, swimmer load, and liquid chlorine additions, all of which push pH upward through the day. The simplest fix for the chemistry gap is not a product. It is a habit. Test free chlorine and pH every single morning in July with a test strip, 2 minutes before coffee, if that helps you remember. 1. The morning test shows you the overnight low, the point where the pool was least protected while you slept. Free chlorine holding at 2 parts per million at dawn means the pool sailed through the night with margin. Near 0 at dawn means the pool spent hours unprotected, and you caught it before the day's heat makes it worse. When pH is high, correct it before you add any chlorine. Every owner who adds chlorine to a pool sitting at pH 8.0 is pouring money into water where the chemistry cannot do its job. 1. Bring pH to 7.4 to 7.6 with muriatic acid from the hardware store, diluted in a bucket of pool water first, added slowly at the deep end with the pump running. Then add chlorine, in that order, every time. Not because of chemistry theory, because chlorine at correct pH clears problems that chlorine at wrong pH cannot touch regardless of how much you add. The second piece of the chemistry fix is total alkalinity. Alkalinity is the buffer that holds pH stable between tests. A pool with alkalinity at 80 to 120 parts per million resists the pH climbs that open the chemistry gap. 1A pool with alkalinity at 50 parts per million has pH swinging freely all day, corrected in the morning and degraded by afternoon. Fix alkalinity with baking soda, plain grocery store baking soda at $1 a pound, and pH stops being a daily fight. For a 10,000-gallon pool, 1.5 pounds of baking soda raises alkalinity by roughly 10 parts per million. Add it with the pump running, broadcast across the surface, wait 4 hours, retest. The third piece is cyanuric acid, the stabilizer that protects your chlorine from UV. One without adequate stabilizer at 30 to 50 parts per million. Midday summer sun destroys 50 to 90% of a full chlorine dose in hours. That is the gap opening in the middle of the afternoon while you are at work and the sun is at full strength. With stabilizer in range, chlorine holds through the afternoon and the chemistry gap never fully forms. Test cyanuric acid with a drop kit, not a strip. Strips are unreliable on this specific number, and an inaccurate stabilizer reading is one of the most common reasons owners cannot explain why their chlorine keeps disappearing. One chemistry can be perfect, and the water will still cloud and algae will still establish if the filtration system is not doing its job. This is the cause pool owners are least likely to identify because filtration failure is invisible until the water shows symptoms, and by then the symptoms are attributed to chemistry and the filter never gets looked at. Your filter's job is to physically remove suspended particles from the water. Dead algae cells, oxidized organic matter, fine debris. When the filter cannot do that job because it is full, oil-fouled, or running too few hours to turn the water over completely. Those particles stay suspended and the water clouds. Algae cells that the filter should have pulled out of circulation stay in the water long enough to find a corner or a wall surface and establish a colony. The simplest filtration check is pressure. Every filter has a normal operating pressure range either marked on the gauge or listed in your manual. 1. When pressure runs 8 to 10 pounds per square inch above normal, the filter is telling you it is full and flow is restricted. A full filter does not filter. It restricts backwash, a sand filter, when pressure is high. Pull and hose a cartridge filter thoroughly, not a rinse. A full hose down of every pleat from top to bottom. Add fresh DE to a DE filter after backwashing. Runtime is the second filtration variable, and the most commonly undermanaged 1 hour of pump runtime for every 10 degrees of air temperature is the working rule. 1 at 90 degrees. That is 9 to 10 hours minimum every day. Not most days, every day. Warm, still water is the environment algae prefers. Moving filtered water is what prevents it. The pool owner who cuts pump run time to save a few dollars on electricity in the hottest week of the year is saving $3 and creating the conditions for a $60 algae treatment the following week. That trade is never close. For cartridge filter owners specifically, hose cleaning mid-season is often not enough. Sunscreen and body oil accumulate in the filter pleats across a summer of use, and water cannot rinse them out. 1. They create a film that blocks flow and cuts filtration dramatically. A cartridge soak overnight in diluted filter cleaner or a solution of 1 part muriatic acid to 20 parts water strips that oil fouling and restores the filtration capacity that owners mistake for a chemistry problem. Pull the cartridge soak overnight, rinse completely before reinstalling. The water clarity improvement after a proper cartridge soak is sometimes dramatic enough that owners think they installed a new filter. 1. I put it all together in a 39-page guide called the Pool Carder Playbook, from green to crystal clear. Normally $67, right now just $29.99. It covers the complete grocery store method with exact doses, the full slam process for clearing green pools without a service call, a printable weekly routine, and the 5 numbers that run your entire pool. I went from spending $600 a season to under $150, and my water has never looked better. The link is below this video. Let's keep going. Everything was balanced Friday morning. Saturday, you had 10 people in the pool for 4 hours. One Sunday morning, the water is cloudy with a green tint and the chlorine reads near zero. Chemistry was fine. Filter was clean. And yet here you are. This is a load gap and it is chemistry. But it is a different chemistry problem from cause. 1. Every person who enters your pool brings organic load, sweat, sunscreen, body oil, and compounds that react with chlorine and consume it without sanitizing anything. When chlorine reacts with these compounds, it converts into chloramines, spent, used-up chlorine that no longer sanitizes but still registers on a basic test strip as combined chlorine. By Sunday morning, your free chlorine has been consumed by the organic load of Saturday's crowd, and what remains is mostly combined chlorine sitting in the water doing nothing useful. The fix is a shock dose timed correctly, and the timing is the piece that most owners get wrong, which is why shocking seems to work inconsistently. Shock at dusk, never during the day. Unstabilized chlorine under midday summer sun loses 50 to 90% of its effectiveness to UV before it finishes working. A bag of shock at 2 in the afternoon is a partial treatment at best. 1. The same dose at dusk works through the night with no UV destruction and 8+ hours of pump circulation to distribute it. For a load situation after a heavy use day, use calcium hypochlorite granular shock at double the standard dose. 1 pound per 10,000 gallons is standard. After a party or a crowd day, 2 pounds per 10,000 gallons, pre-dissolve it in a bucket of pool water first, pour it slowly around the perimeter away from the skimmer. Run the pump all night, minimum 8 hours. Do not test chlorine an hour after adding it and conclude the job is done. 1. The real test is the morning after. Chlorine holding at 2 to 4 parts per million means the pool handled the load. Chlorine near zero at dawn means the organic load was heavier than 1 dose handled, and you shock again the following evening. 2 consecutive evenings of correct timing and correct dose clear the most stubborn load situations. Here is the complete system compressed into what you actually do every day, every week, and once at the start of the season. Once at the start of the season, establish borates at 30 to 50 parts per million using borax from the laundry aisle. 120 pounds for a 10,000-gallon pool. Add with the pump running, correct pH afterward with muriatic acid to 7.4 to 7.6. Retest the following morning. This creates the borate buffer system that holds pH stable through aeration, swimmer load, and heat all summer. Hotel pools use this system. Now yours does too. Every morning in July, 2 minutes, test free chlorine and pH with a test strip. Chlorine below 2 parts per million. Add plain unscented bleach at dusk, pH above 7.6, add muriatic acid, pH below 7.4, add borax. Nothing else on a normal day when the system is running correctly. 1 every week. 15 minutes, run the full panel, alkalinity, cyanuric acid, calcium hardness, brush walls, steps, corners, and behind the ladder, empty baskets, check filter pressure, shock at dusk if the week included heavy use. That is the complete weekly session. 3 layers, one-time borate setup, daily 2-minute test, weekly 15-minute session. Total chemical cost for the season using the grocery store method, $80 to $150 depending on pool size. Total pool store visits 2 to 3 for cyanuric acid and bulk cal hypo shock. Everything else comes from the baking, laundry, and cleaning aisles. The algae that came back every 2 weeks for the last 3 summers does not come back when the conditions that produced it do not exist. The cloudy water that appeared every weekend after company does not appear when the system is running and a proper dusk shock handles the load before it clouds. These are not hoped-for outcomes. They are the predictable results of removing the conditions instead of treating the symptoms. Look at every algae bloom and every bout of cloudy water you have ever had and find the common thread. It is not bad luck. It is not aggressive local algae. It is not insufficient products. It is a gap, a period where the water was unprotected long enough for the problem to establish. That opened because chemistry drifted, filtration fell behind, or load overwhelmed a pool that did not have enough chlorine in reserve to handle it. The pool store answer to every gap is a bottle that addresses what grew in the gap after the fact. The pool carder answer is a system that keeps the gap from opening reliably enough for anything to grow in it. Same pool, same July. 1. Same algae spores blowing in from the same air. One owner treats the algae every 2 weeks and spends $300 doing it. The other owner tests for 2 minutes every morning, runs the pump the right number of hours, brushed the corners on Wednesday, and has not seen algae since May. The difference is not effort. The owner treating algae every 2 weeks is working harder. The difference is which problem they are solving. One is solving the algae, the other is solving the conditions. 1. The simplest way to get rid of algae and cloudy water forever is to stop treating what grows in the gap and start closing the gap. Test daily, correct in sequence, run the pump, brush the corners, shock at dusk after heavy use. That is the entire method. Everything else on the pool store wall is what happens when those 5 things do not happen first. If this is the summer you stop treating the symptom and start fixing the condition, drop it in the comments. What has been your recurring problem? Algae, cloudy water, or both? And how long have you been fighting it? 1. Help the next owner catch it before it costs them another season. Every video on this channel works the same way. Real numbers, no sponsors, no pool store upsell. If that is useful to you, subscribe. This channel reads the water, not the marketing. Spend enough time talking to pool owners and a pattern emerges that has nothing to do with pool size, pool age, budget, or geography. There are owners who fight their pool every single summer, green water in July, cloudy water after every party, the same algae bloom in the same corner every August, the same pool store visit every 3 weeks, and there are owners who simply do not have those problems. Same neighborhood, same heat, same bather load. Completely different experience. The difference is never the products. Both types of owners use chlorine. Both test their water. Both have filters running. The difference, without exception, is when they intervene. The fighting owner intervenes after the water shows a problem. The owner who never fights intervenes before the water shows a problem because they know what the early numbers mean before the water has a chance to make the problem visible. 1A free chlorine reading of 1.5 parts per million on a Tuesday morning in July is not a problem yet. It is a warning. The pool has adequate sanitizer right now, but not enough margin to handle a hot afternoon and whatever load Wednesday brings. The owner who reads 1.5 and adds bleach Tuesday evening at dusk never sees the problem that 1.5 was warning about. The owner who reads 1.5 and figures it will hold until Saturday's test finds out on Saturday what 1.5 on Tuesday was trying to tell them. The problem is the same. The timing of the response is the only difference. 1 and timing in July pool chemistry is the entire game. This is why the daily 2-minute morning test is not optional advice in summer. It is the mechanism by which small corrections replace large ones. A small correction is 30 ounces of bleach added on a Tuesday evening. A large correction is a green pool requiring 72 hours of sustained elevated chlorine, continuous pump operation, repeated brushing, and a full week of monitoring before the water is safe to swim in again. Both situations started from the same place, a chlorine level that was lower than it should have been. One was caught at 1.5 parts per million on Tuesday. The other was caught at 0 parts per million on Saturday when the water had already turned. The owners who never fight their pool are not doing more work. They are doing the right 2 minutes at the right time every day and letting those 2 minutes prevent the hours of work that come from missing them. If you have owned a pool for more than 2 seasons and nobody has ever mentioned the borate system to you, you are not alone. It is one of the most consistently under-communicated pieces of residential pool chemistry in circulation. Not because it is obscure or complicated, but because it is inexpensive, long-lasting, and eliminates several recurring purchases the moment a pool owner discovers it. Here is what 3 seasons of running a pool without a borate buffer costs the average owner in preventable expenses. Weekly algaecide adds up to $180 to $300 a season for a product that addresses the symptom of pH-driven chlorine inefficiency without touching the underlying instability. 1 frequent pH correction product purchases, because without a buffer pH swings require constant adjustment, which means frequent purchases of pH up and pH down products that a buffer would make largely unnecessary. Extra chlorine consumption because chlorine in a high pH unbuffered pool is working at reduced efficiency, which means more chlorine is required to achieve the same sanitizing result. And the occasional specialty treatment when the weekly algaecide stops holding and something stronger is needed for the bloom that showed up anyway. 1. Add those line items across 3 seasons. And a pool owner who has never used borates has spent somewhere between $600 and $900 on products that address conditions a $10 box of borax would have prevented from becoming problematic in the first place. That is not a small number. That is a number that makes the borate conversation feel less like a pool chemistry tip and more like a financial decision that was made by omission every season the pool store did not mention it. The setup takes one afternoon. The cost is under $15 for most residential pools. 1. The season-long impact on chemistry stability, chlorine efficiency, water clarity, and swimmer comfort is measurable and noticeable. And unlike every weekly purchase on the pool store wall, you do not do it again until the following spring, when you open the pool and top up what was lost to winter water management. 3 seasons of not knowing this is money that is gone. 1 season of knowing it changes everything from here forward. There is a version of this video that goes on for another hour, covering every edge case, every pool type variation, every unusual chemistry scenario. 1. That version is not necessary, because the owners who follow 5 specific rules consistently do not encounter most of those edge cases. The edge cases belong to the owners who follow the rules inconsistently and find themselves in situations that require advanced troubleshooting. Here are the 5 rules, not guidelines, not suggestions. Rules: the owners who follow all 5 consistently do not fight their pool in July. Rule 1. Never add chlorine before checking pH. Chlorine added to water above pH 7.8 is operating at a fraction of its capacity. 1 every ounce of chlorine added to high pH water is partially wasted. Fix pH first every time without exception. The sequence is non-negotiable: alkalinity, pH, then sanitizer. Breaking this sequence is the single most common and expensive chemistry mistake residential pool owners make, and it is the mistake that makes the pool feel like it burns through chlorine faster than you can add it. Rule 2. Always shock at dusk, never during the day. Chlorine added to pool water under direct summer sun loses 50 to 90% of its dose to UV before it finishes working. This is the reason shock treatments seem to work inconsistently. The shock is fine, the timing is the problem. The same dose added at dusk and run overnight with the pump on produces results that a midday addition of twice the dose cannot match. Dusk every time. Non-negotiable. Rule 3. Run the pump long enough. 8 to 12 hours daily in summer. Every day, not most days. Algae grows in warm, still water. It cannot establish colonies in water that is being continuously turned over through a working filter. The owner who cuts pump hours to save on electricity during the hottest week of the year is making the exact trade that produces the algae bloom they will spend $80 treating the following week. The electricity savings are real. The treatment cost that follows is larger. Run the pump. Rule 4. Brush every week. 3 minutes, corners, steps behind the ladder along the waterline, wall niches. These are the dead zones where circulation is lowest and algae colonies always begin. 1A brush sends the cells that were about to establish a foothold into the water column where your chlorine and filter handle them before they become visible. Pool owners who brush every week without exception almost never see visible algae. Pool owners who brush when they see green are brushing 3 weeks too late. The brush takes 3 minutes. The algae treatment takes 3 days. Choose the 3 minutes. Rule 5. Keep cyanuric acid in range and watch it. 30 to 50 parts per million. Test it with a drop kit, not a strip. 1. If you are using trichlor tablets as any part of your chlorine program, CYA is climbing with every tablet. Above 70 parts per million, your chlorine effectiveness is significantly degraded. Above 90 and you are in chlorine lock, where chlorine is present in the water but largely unable to do its job. The only fix is dilution, partial drain and refill, and there is no chemical shortcut. Watch the number before it climbs into the range where it makes everything else harder. 5 rules. 1. Follow all 5 consistently, and the green pool problem and the cloudy water problem both become theoretical rather than recurring. Not because the pool is somehow protected from algae spores or organic load or summer heat, but because the conditions that allow those inputs to become visible problems are not present in a pool where the 5 rules are running correctly. Every pool owner in your neighborhood who is currently fighting the same green pool problem you are fighting has access to the same information in this video. 1. The pool store chemistry, the borate system, the grocery store method, the correct shock timing, the daily 2-minute test, none of it is proprietary, none of it is complex, all of it is available. What most of them do not have is the framework that connects all of it into a single system with a clear sequence and a clear daily habit. They have fragments, a tip from a neighbor about shocking at night, a YouTube comment about baking soda being the same as alkalinity increaser, a vague memory that CYA matters somehow. Fragments do not change behavior the way a complete system does. One fragments get applied inconsistently and produce inconsistent results, which confirms the belief that pool chemistry is complicated and unpredictable and probably requires a professional. Pool chemistry is not complicated. 4 numbers and a sequence, a daily 2-minute check, a one-time borate setup, a grocery store shopping list that replaces most of the pool store wall, a shock timing rule that doubles the effectiveness of what you are already doing. None of it requires expertise. All of it requires knowing the system and applying it consistently. 1. The next owner who finds this channel skips the 3 seasons of expensive inconsistency that most pool owners go through before they stumble onto the right information. They set up the borate system in week 1, they buy bleach and baking soda and muriatic acid, they test every morning, they shock at dusk, they brush on Wednesday, and they spend the summer swimming in clear, comfortable water while the pool store wonders why they only came in once this season. That owner is who this channel is for, and if you have made it to the end of this video, that owner is you.